Hello and welcome to the TV Enthusiast YouTube channel. Today we are having a special discussion about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and how it connects between film and television. Joining me today are Will.
Hello.
And Kat.
Hi.
So we were going to have Ed on today, who used to participate in our roundtables, but he's running Film-Enthusiast now, which is another part of the Enthusiast Media Network. It was going to be kind of our big crossover event, like the Avengers itself. Unfortunately, Ed wasn't able to make it for this one, so I'm still hoping we can do some kind of a crossover thing in the future. Maybe a second MCU chat, because there's always lots to talk about in the MCU.
There's always something happening in the MCU.
And
it's an ongoing thing.
It's an endless well of goodies.
Yes.
And if you've ever listened to our podcast, then you know that the MCU frequently derails our topics. So today is MCU, so the MCU cannot derail it. So we have to see what's going to derail this topic. Is it going to be the...
There's got to be subsects within the MCU that we can use to derail us from the topic. I'm sure there's something.
Derail this. I don't know. We could talk about how Fox just canceled Weird Loners.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Okay, don't start looking for topics to get us off on a tangent.
Okay, so in addition to talking about the MCU, we'll be talking about kind of other properties that are kind of crossing that border between TV and film, and what that means, and how that can change kind of the future of what's going on with the television industry and the film industry, and just the way we take entertainment in general. I thought we'd start off just by talking about Avengers 2, which is kind of what spurred on the idea of having this topic in the first place. So I'll just start, Kat, what did you think of Avengers 2?
Overall, I thought it was fantastic, wildly entertaining, and I got to see it with a midnight crowd, so everyone there was just like soaking everything up, and everything was made more funny by the fact that everyone was laughing at it at the same time. My biggest beef for that, I felt that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were a bit underdeveloped. I guess I get why Joss Whedon couldn't do much with them, because he already had like 20 other characters. But I was a little bit like, it's Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I want them to have lots of personality, and I thought Quicksilver and Days of Future Past had more personality.
Yeah, they definitely got outdone by Fox with that character.
Not that it matters, though.
He's
dead now.
Both Quicksilvers felt like they were cameoing in their films anyway.
Yeah.
First one, but they had like Fox, the X-Men Quicksilver had that like really breakout scene, that really memorable scene. And Quicksilver and Avengers didn't get quite a memorable scene like that. Not even comparable.
Exactly, and I thought between the two of them, I thought she registered as a stronger personality just because she seemed to be the one that talked more and was more in charge.
Right.
And I did wonder if they killed him because of the whole debacle with Fox, where they just went, we don't want any confusion with the X-Men universe, which is sad because now it looks like Quicksilver isn't going to be in the next X-Men either. So it's like, Fox and Marvel just like, we don't want to deal with it.
It was, as soon as Quicksilver died, I immediately thought of, really? This is just spiteful to Fox.
Yeah.
But this is Marvel we're talking about, so what's really dead?
Yeah, well...
That's true. How many people have... So far we've had, like, Coulson and Loki and Nick Fury have all come back from the dead, so, I'm sure they can manage something with Quicksilver.
I mean, so this just means Quicksilver will show up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
They can inject him with the Kree serum.
And then Joss Whedon will say, well, in the movies, Quicksilver is dead, but on TV.
Yeah.
On that topic, though, the next Avengers movie, well, it's two movies actually, is Infinity War. It is Thanos, and Thanos does have a relationship with death. He's all about death, and
That's
so
true.
this kind of thing is something that I think a lot of people are expecting. A lot of people are expecting, actually, that we're probably going to see a lot of the Avengers die in the next Avengers.
Well, I think contracts are coming up. I don't think Robert Downey Jr. is going to want to be doing Iron Man for much longer.
Chris Evans, too.
Evans is looking to get out of being Captain America. I could see them being killed off in Infinity War.
Or maybe even Civil War.
And they've already set up potential replacements for Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans as well, because
they've
already set up.
Captain America and War Machine can be Iron Man, so it totally works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about it, is that they can have these actors leave the franchise, have these character deaths, but still have like these replacements fill in for the roles without necessarily changing out the actor for the same role and kind of breaking the continuity. Even though they've already done that in the MCU like several times, but it's still something that I think is best avoided whenever possible, because it does kind of break the continuity when they do that.
Yeah.
Sure. But I think it's good, because I think it's going to help give the MCU longevity, because otherwise, I mean, I would hate them try to say, okay, now we still want to use Iron Man's character, so time to recast Tony Stark. It's like, that would be a terrible idea. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
No one can replace Robert Downey Jr. probably for at least 20 or 30 years. So I like the idea of having War Machine step in, because doesn't that kind of thing happen all the time in the comics anyway? Like how right now there's a woman who's taken over as Thor, and Falcon is currently Captain America.
Yeah, it happens all the time. More so in like DC comics, where you'll see like the Flash is Barry Allen, and then he dies, and then Wally West becomes the Flash, and it's a different character.
Wally West.
The same role.
Such a comic book name.
I know that's a cool comic book name. Well, I mean, come on, it's freaking DC. Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor.
Lana Lang.
A lot of them, they have they'll have the double initial thing. So, like, Wally West, WW, Lana Lang, LL, Lois Lane,
Bruce
LL.
Banner. I guess Bruce Banner is, but that's Marvel. But yeah, Peter Parker.
Peter Parker. I mean, yeah, that's a comic book tradition.
Yeah, Tony Stark, it's actually the T is silent before the S. It's like Russian. It's Tony Stark. Yeah. But yeah, it's let's go back on just talk about Avengers 2. I personally really enjoyed it. I as well saw it, not a midnight showing because they started showing it as early as 7 p.m. over here. I saw like a 9:45 showing with two of my friends, and it was really fun seeing it with an audience. I remember there was a really well set up scene because they did the whole like everybody trying to lift Thor's hammer scene earlier in the movie.
Yes, that is my favorite moment in the whole movie. My favorite laugh out loud moment.
That is.
The great thing is that they called back to that when they showed Vision, and they were unsure if they could trust Vision, but then Vision picked up the hammer.
Unbeknownst, that scene was a setup for the Vision to just pick up the hammer.
Yeah, but that scene, like when that happened, everyone in the theater that was watching with me went like, and then they all bust up laughing because they all went. It's like they laughed at themselves. It was really funny.
It was great.
And then the response, also seeing the looks on the faces of the rest of the Avengers in that moment of realizing that someone other than Thor just picked up Thor's hammer.
Without that early scene establishing that to the audience, the Vision picking up Thor's hammer wouldn't have had as much meaning to the general audience. I mean, the comic geeks would realize the significance even if they didn't have that earlier scene. But it really spells it out to the rest of the audience that this is no simple feat that the Vision just pulled.
Yeah, and it was a great scene in general too. Like the first scene with them doing it with Captain America, like just nudging it, barely moving it, and like the look on Thor's face.
Chris Hemsworth played that so perfectly. And when Vision hands the hammer back to him, it's like trying to brush it off like it's no big deal.
I like at the end there when Thor is like, they're arguing it with Thor, and they're like, well, you know, the Vision is a machine, so technically he's not a man. So I guess it's okay.
There were a lot of good, funny moments throughout the. I was surprised at how funny Ultron was, actually.
I was not expecting Ultron to be cracking like jokes like he did, but yeah, he was surprisingly funny. Like he had humor to him.
I thought the funniest parts with Ultron were less him cracking jokes and more just like his genuine kind of, like he'd do something really violent and then he'd be like, oh so sorry.
Like when he his hand.
Yeah.
Which was like, yeah, he got like really angry, chopped off his hand, and he's like, oh no, I did not mean to do that.
I'm going to chalk that one up to Joss Whedon. He's really good at writing funny villains.
That's definitely Joss Whedon all the way. That's one of his hallmarks. Which, funny thing is, that scene with Andy Serkis, that's actually a setup for the Black Panther movie.
Yeah, and that's where the vibranium or whatever that metal is called comes from is Black Panther's country.
And the guy Andy Serkis was playing, that's actually Black Panther's arch nemesis. So,
yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad we're finally going to meet Black Panther.
Motion capture.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
So, let me think of other things. I was after I saw the movie, I kind of took a second and just was thinking back about things. There was a lot of really well set up moments that I was kind of surprised at how well they were set up. Stuff with, for example, when Quicksilver died and stuff. The whole kind of setup throughout the movie of just him going like, you know, what, you didn't see that coming kind of thing, you know, and then using that as like this kind of quick comedy.
I like how they set up like this like rivalry between Quicksilver and Hawkeye throughout the movie. Like in particular, I mean, at the end of the movie, when Quicksilver dies, it's because he sacrifices himself to save Hawkeye, and when at the beginning of the movie, Hawkeye is like the first one to like get knocked out by Quicksilver. You know, so like they have that relationship throughout the whole movie, in particular, more than the other two characters.
It was a clever setup because there were multiple setups that led to that. Because there was also the scene where Quicksilver got hit with friendly fire, and it was just played off like a quick joke. But to me, what that was saying is like, yes, he's fast, but he can still be hit.
Right.
And, you know, you don't realize that that's what that scene meant until you see Quicksilver die.
Definitely,
and then you're like, oh, okay, they were using that as a kind of a setup, like a reminder that just because he's fast doesn't mean he's not going to get hit.
That he can't die. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I'm sure this is coincidence, but it's still kind of an odd coincidence to me. What are the odds that in both Marvel and DC they have the resident archer and the resident speedster like having some kind of relationship?
Yeah, I know.
Both of them have done that now. Granted, the DC universe isn't going to kill the Flash, but in retrospect, I was kind of like, has Joss Whedon been watching Arrow and Flash? And he went, oh, that's a good idea. I should have that in my movie.
I don't think he had enough time.
That's
sure
what I was
did
thinking.
It, but it was a really weird coincidence.
Yeah, it's a really weird coincidence. Like, all the characters that they could pair with Quicksilver in that movie, they chose Hawkeye. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I really liked Hawkeye's line when he's talking to Scarlet Witch in that building, where he's like, "This city is flying, and there are robots, and I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense."
Yeah. I love that.
It was starting to feel a little bit like Chewbacca defense from South Park. A Wookiee is an Endor. It doesn't make sense.
My hair is a bird. I really loved. Oh, I loved like the very last scene when like Captain America, like the new Avengers, we see like Vision, Scarlet Witch, War Machine, Falcon, and then Captain America comes out. He says Avengers, and then it cuts out before he says Assemble. But then you see this is the new This is the new lineup for the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why I thought that was really cool because that's like the Avengers are evolving. They're changing, and it's really awesome to see that.
I agree. Yeah, it's for the best, especially given how enormous this universe is and how many people have been Avengers outside of the 6 that were in the first movie.
Yeah, definitely. They also came out with like the synopsis for Captain America: Civil War, like the basic rundown of the plot of the movie. And basically, what happens is like it picks up right after the Avengers with Captain America training this new team, and in the midst of the training, something horrible happens, and that causes the government to start setting up regulations for these heroes, and that's what causes the divide between Tony Stark and Captain America. And then they say behind the scenes there's a new villain that pops up.
Well, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is laying the groundwork for Civil War, right?
Maybe.
It's laying the groundwork for a lot of stuff. I've been noticing Civil War hints for a while, but also
Inhumans.
Yeah, Inhumans and.
I mean, I'm just going by the log line for the new Captain America movie. That's what the log line said.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. On Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now, the question of the day is it okay to regulate powered people? Like, is that wrong to round people up and tag them that way, or is it better for the sake of humanity? And they're using the Inhumans in a really interesting. That's kind of the driving force of that. So it's kind of cool. It's like they're taking these two major film setups and kind of pushing them together in really interesting ways.
Yeah, I'm sure like there will be some bridge in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to bridge Age of Ultron to the next Captain America to help us get to Civil War. But yeah, I guess
they already have.
It really won't kick off until this tragic event occurs involving all the new Avengers that we just saw.
That'll be the tipping point.
Yeah, that'll be a tipping point. Also, Martin Freeman has been cast in an unknown role.
That's right.
In Civil War?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
we have Sherlock and Watson in the MCU.
Well, to be fair, I'm pretty sure like every major British actor has, if they haven't been cast in the MCU yet, they will be at some point. I mean, come on.
It was like Harry Potter back in the day.
Yeah.
So here's the cast. Here's everybody that's going to be in the new Captain America movie, and this is kind of crazy. We got Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow, the Winter Soldier, Falcon, Vision, Hawkeye, War Machine, Scarlet Witch, Ant-Man,
Black Panther,
Spider-Man, Sharon Carter, Baron Zemo, Crossbones, and General Thunderbolt Ross from The Incredible Hulk.
and don't forget Black Panther.
Oh yeah, Black Panther.
Okay, honestly, I'm sincerely looking forward to both Civil War and Apocalypse, but every time each of these films announces yet another cast member, I'm just kind of going, okay, I'm worried that you're like overreaching at a certain point when you have like 20 characters.
They got like everybody in here. Ant-Man's in this. I was not expecting them to put Ant-Man in this movie, but yeah, he is, which perfectly sets up the possibility that Hawkeye will put Ant-Man on one of his arrows, and we will get the famous Ant-Man, like, flying it at a bad guy on an arrow and then growing big and punching him out scene.
Well, Arrow did find a way to do the boxing glove arrow, so I'd say anything is possible at this point.
Say anything is possible. I'm like, this movie has Hawkeye and Ant-Man in it. They better do that scene.
Well, who's directing it? Is it the Russo brothers again?
The Russo brothers are directing it, yeah.
They are. Okay, because they're doing the next two Avengers.
They're doing the next two Avengers as well, with the same writing team as well. So the same writing team behind Captain America 1, Captain America Winter Soldier, and this one is doing the next of two Avengers movies with the Russo brothers. So it looks like they're now the de facto MCU team.
They're the Joss Whedon replacement.
Instead of just
I think they're a good pick. Winter Soldier is definitely one of the best films in the MCU.
Yeah, top tier, definitely. It felt really great. It was a movie that you don't even have to be familiar with Marvel or the MCU to enjoy. It works excellent by itself as like this spy thriller that you can really get into. I thought that was really one of the best done MCU movies.
So this means now that they're kind of running the MCU on the creative side, does that mean that we get to see Joel McHale show up on one of them, and it's cool to be an Avenger?
Yes.
I'm too cool
Oh my gosh. Okay, Tyson, have you seen the Community yet where he keeps making references to Chris Pratt?
I don't think so. I've only seen the first 3 of this season.
Okay, there's an episode where he keeps making references to Chris Pratt because of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, wait, doesn't Community film like right below Parks and Rec? Surely these casts know each other.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Oh my god. Another thing I should point out is that they did announce the cast and everything about Winter Soldier, but Spider-Man has not been announced for Civil War.
Oh,
I'm
so he's
sure
not
he'll be
guaranteed?
They're gonna keep him secret.
Yeah.
That's the reason they announced that they worked their asses off to get stuff lined up for that with their deal they did with Sony, and I'm sure that he's gonna be in it. They're just not gonna make it very obvious. They're gonna do it kind of like a surprise,
Yes.
Maybe not a surprise in the movie, but maybe like when the official trailer comes out, or something like that. They're going.
Oh yeah, maybe like, by the way, Spider-Man's in this. It's like,
So-
Worst case scenario, he'll be in the tag.
I mean, to be fair to Marvel, they probably haven't announced Spider-Man yet because he hasn't even been cast yet.
Yeah.
Unless you believe Martin Freeman's playing Spider-Man, which I doubt it.
Terrible idea. Well, so I guess I follow the MCU so intently, it's really hard for me to be objective and imagine what it must be like trying to watch one of these movies without familiarity of the MCU. But, like, is Spider-Man then his announcement going to be a surprise for people, for, like, the casual viewers? Because I can't imagine that the MCU fans are going to go into this not expecting Spider-Man.
Yeah, right.
No, I think what they're going to do is I think they're going to keep really tight on Spider-Man. Like, they probably won't even film any outdoor scenes with him before the fucking first trailer comes out. And what they'll do is they'll film, like, and so that'll be our first look at him. And so the first time we see his costume, the first time we see the MCU version of Spider-Man, it's going to be, like, in that trailer, and everyone's going to go, oh, fucking shit, it's Spider-Man,
Somebody intriguing possibility. It is intriguing that they refuse to announce who Martin Freeman is playing in this film, just that he's been cast. And somebody suggested that Martin Freeman is actually playing Norman Osborn. And he's going to make an appearance alongside Spider-Man to set up that part of the MCU. And
Okay, but does this film really need Norman Osborn on top of everyone else? Seriously, I'm kind of worried that the cast is getting way too big as it is.
I know. The cast is getting way too big. I think, yeah. I mean, the cast is already huge. I don't know, but yeah, somebody said he could be playing Norman Osborn to set up that, and also maybe set up the Thunderbolts happening. I don't know. But
I think it would make sense with him playing Norman Osborn. I think they could get away with it too, without overcomplicating things, by just introducing him not in any other way, just as this businessman named Norman Osborn that's somehow tied to some kind of thing.
yeah,
And it's just very vague. And then
No,
that's
we
kind
can
of like our
recover-
first
the
introduction.
suggestion was Norman Osborn would show up and he would publicly support Tony Stark's side of the argument.
Yeah, something
You know.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I think it might be even best to limit his scenes. I think this is where, like, I think actually the X-Men movies have demonstrated how to do this well and how to do this wrong. Is like Last Stand is overstuffed with characters and you feel it. And I feel like Days of Future Past did a really good job of prioritizing its cast, even though it has, like, 20 characters. So I guess I kind of worry that Marvel hasn't quite had to do that yet.
Right.
Because much as I enjoyed Age of Ultron, I do kind of see people who watch this movie and go, this is overstuffed with characters. Because it really, really is. And I hope they don't shoot themselves in the foot, because guaranteed Infinity War is probably going to be all hands on deck, and don't be surprised if we get like 50 characters pulling from every corner of the MCU.
Well, they're doing two
by
movies
its
for
very
Infinity Wars.
nature, yeah, it has to have everybody, because that was the original comic. It was like literally every character in the Marvel Universe at that time was involved in that event. So
Sure.
yeah.
They got 2 movies to do it, though, so they planned ahead at least for that.
I mean,
But I get that.
Guardians
But
of the Galaxy to show up in Infinity War. You know.
yeah, I get that, but at the same time, if I'm just being thrown 50 different characters with not enough focus on, like, maybe 2 or 3 of them to keep me emotionally engaged, then I'm going to feel really overwhelmed. And I think that's going to be really tricky for them to manage.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy will show up, for example, but they'll show up in the same way that, like, Nick Fury did, not at the beginning, but, like, his second show up with the helicarrier and stuff. They'll show up like that, just kind of like oh, look, and we have them as backup, too. And they'll say some, like, you know, Chris Pratt will say some kind of funny line or something, and then they'll, like, cut away, and then they'll go back to, something like that.
They have to have the Guardians in Infinity War, because Drax has like that relationship with Thanos that's unresolved as of right now. You know, they can't just leave like that unresolved, because you know Drax wants revenge against Thanos because Thanos was responsible for the deaths of his family,
and then Gamora too, being
Thanos' daughter. I mean, so there's ties there that. So it would really just make sense to have them involved in that event because of those ties that they set up.
But I think they'll come in a really kind of simple, like a cameo kind of way almost, you know?
Yeah.
And I think also what we're going to see, like we said, I think a lot of characters are going to die. The ones whose contracts are in dispute, and that's going to happen, I think, in the first movie. And so the second movie, you'll have more characters coming in, kind of replacing those characters and stuff.
I mean, basically what happened in the comic was everybody died. Literally everybody was killed. Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor. Everybody you could rattle off a name ended up dead by the end of it. So I mean, but I'm definitely expecting the big showstopper to be Iron Man, to be Iron Man's death. And that's one of the big pivotal moments in the 2-part movie.
And we might even see Cap die in his own movie before that. So
right. I mean, yeah. I think with Civil War they'll go the route that they did with the actual comics, in which they did Civil War and then right after that ended, Captain America was assassinated. So they might do that at the end of Civil War.
Yeah. Cap will die. Winter Soldier will replace him at the very end, and then in Infinity War, a bunch of the other kind of mainstay Marvel characters like Tony Stark and stuff will die,
I'm
throughout
wondering
the course
how
of the movie.
resolved Infinity War, though. In the comics, Adam Warlock appeared, and he stopped it all. And so far, there's no Adam Warlock in this universe.
Well, there's other ones that can do it, you know?
Yeah.
So it'll be Hawkeye. Well, I'm just wondering how in Infinity War how Hawkeye is going to be taken out of commission for the first half of the movie, because he always is in every event.
Poor Hawkeye. Hey, he has a family now.
Family.
Oh, yeah. I think this time we'll just get a cramp. He'll be like, Charlie Horse, Charlie Horse, Charlie Horse.
Joss Whedon explained he gave Hawkeye a family because making him like Black Widow's love interest was like too obvious, and so he wanted to betray expectations like that.
That makes sense.
I think that's good too, because I don't like it when film or TV try to present the idea that men and women cannot be friends without being romantically linked. That's one of the things I was upset with Arrow.
I could not agree more with that assessment. I could not agree more.
Yeah,
I was tired of it. Arrow with Felicity and Oliver is exactly that. Like, they should not be that way. They should just be friends.
Yeah, they should have been. Yeah, they should have been friends. They could have still had a close relationship and not be lovers. But of course, like, they had to ship them, and it's horrible, and I hate it.
It's because the fans demanded it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's because fans will put any relationship together. I really like that about the MCU is I feel like we have these, within S.H.I.E.L.D. itself, we have these three major pairings of a male-female relationship that is completely platonic, because we have Nick Fury and Maria Hill, and then we have Black Widow and Hawkeye, and then we have, on the show we have Coulson and May. And I really like that all three are platonic. And if Coulson and May ever turned into something romantic, I think my eyeballs might start to
I don't think I can even begin to imagine that, even with like a little bit. Because, yeah, no.
It's a bad idea.
Although if they did an Arrow crossover with Felicity, she would have a relationship with every male on the S.H.I.E.L.D. team. Because
that's all that Felicity does, is she hooks up with superheroes.
Yeah, I know.
That is her sole purpose. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But I love that. I love Joss Whedon's explanation. I love that he just said he wanted to show between Black Widow and Hawkeye that they can have this really close, meaningful relationship and not have it be like a sexual thing or be like a romance thing. It's just a friendship, and that's okay. And I love that.
Okay, see, this is why I love Joss Whedon, and I feel like one of the few other people you can count on out there to be in a similar vein as George R. Martin, is I feel like they're both this just kind of like, I'm not going to do what the fans want me to do, I'm going to do what's best for the story. And so I love that Joss Whedon is the kind of person that would never cave to fan pressure to put two characters together unless he knew that it was the right decision for the story.
I think it's David Simon is another one like that, if I'm getting his name right. The guy who was the creator and showrunner of The Wire on HBO was also known for that. It's a maneuver, I think it's called audience contempt, actually, is the idea, which is that the audience wants something and you just kind of, no, that's not what happens.
Yeah, because storytelling, you're not supposed to be just catering to the audience. You're not just supposed to be doing what the audience wants you to do. You're supposed to be striving to tell the best story possible. And I think sometimes it's so easy to let that line blur, especially since the internet has made what the audience wants more louder and more obvious than ever.
Right. I mean, George R. R. Martin, like Game of Thrones, is so popular. It's so beloved because he's constantly defying audience expectations. You know, he kills off fan favorite characters with like a sort of maniacal glee, and it's like, and it's all to serve the story. It's to make the story better, and it works. I mean, the story is interesting because if the fans had their way, like Robb Stark would still be alive or something, and I don't know, it'd be.
There would have been a happy ending 3 books ago.
Yes.
And everyone would have ended up romantically paired together, and only a fraction of the people would have died.
Yep, exactly.
Jaime and Cersei would have turned out not to be siblings.
Oh, yeah.
So that they really could hook up.
Yeah, I know, so that they really could hook up.
So let's talk more in general about kind of the MCU and its tie between television and film.
Okay.
Because
so this is like really unique in terms of cross media and where the film aspect
cross media integration.
It's like the film aspect and the television aspect are so tightly intertwined. What happens in one affects the other and vice versa. Although, really, in this case, it's really the films leading the television shows. The shows are never going to dictate what happens in the films, but the films are going to dictate where the shows go.
I think it's neither now.
A year ago, I would have said that because of the way Winter Soldier really guided Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I actually don't think that that's happening now, and I actually think it's for the better, because the Age of Ultron tie-in to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was such a minor thing that had almost nothing to do, actually pretty much had nothing to do with the main plot lines at hand.
Right.
And so it's kind of like they slipped it in there because they needed to go, oh, and this thing is happening in the same universe, and go see the movie and come back, and we'll have a little bit of repercussions, but then we're going to get back to our main content. And I think even though they can't make the Inhumans and Civil War stuff vital to seeing the movies, because the majority of people who see the movies are never going to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.,
right.
There's still a degree to which Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think is laying some pretty important groundwork for those two films.
You're right there. What I really meant with that statement was, though, like, nothing major is going to happen in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that is going to change the direction of, like, the films or the film franchises.
Sure.
No,
sure. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But we're exploring other aspects of it, and it used to be that the only tie between the film and the TV show was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and at that point it was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Then Agent Carter came along, and it's like, well, it's kind of so off on its own period thing that it's not really affecting anything directly, which it could. That would be really cool if it did have a big effect or something.
For the most part, I know you're going to bring up Daredevil, but Daredevil is still, for the most part, its own thing. It's kind of like separated because it's taking place in like this small corner of New York City.
Yeah, it is, but it's still connected, and it's
right.
It's interesting because it's not like the movies aren't dictating the direction of those shows because it's kind of isolated a bit.
Right. Right.
But there's something kind of get around there too.
Right.
Well, what I'd like to see them do more with the TV series. Obviously, they do as much with S.H.I.E.L.D., but to me, I think one of the best movie tie-ins or Easter eggs that they have done anywhere ever is the Black Widow thing in Agent Carter. Because it's this tiny little detail that isn't necessarily mandatory for understanding anything, but once you catch it and once you see it, it enriches a part of the MCU and it enriches a vital character, and it makes the universe more interesting to those of us who follow it intently.
That was actually awesome, and to further that, they had the Black Widow flashbacks in Age of Ultron. If you watched Agent Carter, you understood those flashbacks more because of that.
Absolutely.
That was awesome.
It wasn't necessary to meet with Agent Carter to appreciate the flashbacks, but if you have seen Agent Carter, it's even cooler.
It's even cooler, exactly, because you're kind of like more clued in. I really love that.
I think the Defenders stuff is going to come into play even more than that in a similar way. I think as it starts developing and as the stuff starts tying in together, you're going to start seeing maybe not even characters that appear that are in the movies or something, but certain consequences of the series that act as motivations in the film that you wouldn't even notice as a thing to pay attention to if you just watch the film. But if you watch the series and the film, you're like, oh, I can see this connection.
Well, what's interesting is they're doing Luke Cage. They're doing Luke Cage in the Netflix series.
And Luke Cage was connected to Captain America.
Yeah, Luke Cage. In the comics, Luke Cage is one of the Avengers now. He's on the Avengers. Daredevil never gets on the Avengers. You know, the other characters that they're doing.
We don't need a blind guy.
But,
Ouch.
So get your blind ass out of here.
Yeah, like, the blind guy. Yeah, we don't need blind people on our team.
Okay, that's what Tony Stark would say.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh man. To be fair, I don't think Daredevil is interested in being an Avenger. So.
No.
Daredevil's like introducing himself to all the Avengers, and finally he gets to the newest one. He's like, "What's your name?" And the guy's like, "Vision," and then Daredevil just cries and runs away.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of other properties that are also starting to kind of blend the whole TV film thing. I mean, there isn't a lot.
Well, I think one thing is it's obvious that what they're doing with Arrow and the Flash, how they're building a little mini multi-connected DC universe on TV.
Over different networks, yeah.
Yep. Different networks.
Well, assuming Supergirl actually gets to be a part of this, so like right now it's still kind of up in the air. Didn't the CBS president go, yeah, we don't want to do any Supergirl crossovers anytime soon, like we want to keep her to ourselves for a while.
Yeah. CBS wants to keep her to themselves.
So I have, at the same time, I have also heard rumors that she might appear in the Legends of Tomorrow spinoff, so who knows?
Legends of
Tomorrow! It's straight face, it's so cheesy. It's almost Death of Justice.
What's funny is, what interesting thing happened, Constantine was canceled by NBC. That has nothing to do with Arrow or The Flash, but Warner Bros. Announced they're shopping it around. They want to see if they could get somebody else to pick up Constantine, like Netflix. And then Stephen Amell tweeted that if somebody picks up Constantine for a second season, he will guest star, presumably as the Green Arrow.
Well, I hope so. I think it makes sense for like Arrow and Flash to interact because there's very similar sensibilities to the superheroics there. Constantine, from what I understand, is a kind of darker corner of the universe that doesn't necessarily fit in as well. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a lot like really supernatural kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very weird. I don't know.
Also, Stephen Amell, I think, just wants to cross over with him. When he said, I want to do a crossover with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which...
Oh, yeah. Stephen Amell
absolutely doesn't whatsoever.
Stephen Amell just wants to cross over with everything. It's like, yeah. We'll see Stephen
Amell wants to cross over with a Golden Girls reunion.
Yeah. he's gonna cross over with the Goldbergs.
Well, and I don't remember if this was intentional or just accidental, but like in the second episode of Gotham, there was at the very end of the episode what looked like a Q for the Queen Consolidated logo, and I remember all the fans were like, "Whoa, did they just put that in as an Easter egg?" But I don't remember whether or not it was on purpose.
Oh, I don't remember either.
That's the one series I hope doesn't cross over.
You could make Gotham part of the Arrowverse. just say the Arrowverse is taking place during the
But
time that
should you?
Wayne is a child.
Yeah.
Obviously,
No.
makes everybody else much older than Batman.
But except that Gotham used the doll maker,
Yes.
and it was a very different doll maker than the one that Arrow used. So I think
Yes.
they've already run into a problem there.
Yeah, they already-
That's really hilarious. I think it would highlight just how much of a problem series Gotham really is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like DC needs any help disjointing their own universe.
No.
No. I will say this about Arrow and Flash, because I remember I loved the crossover event that, obviously, who didn't love the crossover event that they did at the end of last year. But after that, when they were like, and we're going to have more crossover events, I was kind of like, I really don't want you to overdo it. At the same time, I think they've been pretty smart about it. Like, every now and again, it'll be like, and then this character meets this character from Flash gets to meet up with this character from Arrow. And it's kind of fun, because it's like every once in a while, they hook back up again. And then from what I can tell, Oliver is going to be in the Flash finale, which just sounds awesome to me, because it's like, oh, dude, he's going to team up with Firestorm and Arrow to fight the Reverse Flash. Like, there's no way I'm not watching this. So I think Arrow and Flash has actually done a pretty fantastic job at utilizing crossovers just enough and in just the right ways.
They've been very smart about the crossovers in establishing that this is a shared universe between the two shows. They do it where it makes sense, to be like, hey, even in like episodes where they can't have a crossover, but you would think it would make sense. Like, I don't know if you've seen the episode of Arrow where they had the metahuman in Starling City.
I haven't seen it yet. It is literally the next episode that I have to watch. So I'm probably going to watch it tomorrow.
Because they threw the line where Oliver just asked, well, why can't they're like this metahuman, and Oliver just flat out asked, well, he says, call Barry, get him here. And Felicity's like, Barry's dealing with his own issues. He's not available. And it's like...
That's when they brought in Adam, right? Or I can't remember. I don't remember what it was.
Well, don't see too much else. I'm literally going to watch it tomorrow for the first time, so I don't want to know anything else.
There's no spoilers except Flash doesn't appear. I don't think that's a big spoiler. But
Dang it!
But yeah, I won't say anything else about that episode.
I'll also tell you that Stephen Amell does not appear as a second character crossing over into his own series.
Man, that's just starting to twist my mind.
Casey Jones, here to save the day.
Casey Jones and Stephen Amell tweets, I will cross over as Casey Jones and Arrow.
Okay, then I think that someone needs to really start to question his if he's really mentally incompetent.
Season 4 of Arrow, he's just playing every character. He's like, I'm the Black Canary!
He's got some horrible...
Well, hey, I saw someone making jokes about how now that Coulson has absorbed Creeblood into his system, he's going to transform into Ms. Marvel. So, just imagine Coulson in the Ms. Marvel costume.
Oh my god.
Which, admittedly, there's a small part of me that thinks that Clark Gregg might go for it just for like an hour to see what it looks like.
Oh, man.
Is that off topic enough?
So other properties besides DC and Marvel that have been kind of flirting with the whole TV connection. Of course, we have the upcoming in development, as Will says, not existent until he sees the minutes of the movie and until the credit sequence airs.
Fantasies and dreams of people. Let's not.
Until the DVD special edition with the extended cut is in your hand, it doesn't exist.
Yes, exactly.
Is the Dark Tower series from Stephen King, which is the way it's in development now is that it's going to have a movie, then a season of a TV series, then another movie, then presumably maybe another season of a TV series. We don't know.
Well, that's a cool idea, but man, that must be a logistical nightmare to plan out.
That's
Yeah.
Because I remember X-Files did that, where they, at the end of 4th season, they filmed the movie, and then they went and filmed 5th season, but all of 5th season had to prepare them for the movie. And I know they said that it was really complicated to work out.
It's like, you know.
There are some benefits to it, though, which is that you can use the weight of your movie's budget to build sets and stuff that you can then reuse on the TV show on a smaller budget.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
That's an interesting idea.
there's some things that it works really well with, yeah.
I haven't read the series, but I can't imagine I won't follow it just because I think this whole idea of having film and TV crossover is so cool that I'm really excited to see where people go with it next.
Just everything's connected. Right after I watched Avengers: Age of Ultron, I came home and I needed to do something else. Like I was doing some kind of work and I needed TV on in the background. So I checked my DVR, and the one thing I had on my DVR to watch was The Blacklist. So the whole time I'm watching, I'm cracking up.
Speaking of creepy, evil James Spader.
Yeah. Well, it's all connected.
It is.
Ultron's
It
in
is.
human form.
Well, now that Arthur Darvill is also joining the DC TVverse, I really want him and John Barrowman and Alex Kingston to have a scene together, and they can just talk about, their differing experiences traveling in the TARDIS.
There have been a lot of rumors that I don't think it's going to happen, but a lot of fans want it, where they want to have the Game of Thrones series. Oh, well,
Okay.
they're going to have the
my
Game of
what?
Thrones series
My phone
conclude
just
with the movie.
crashed all of a sudden, just like everything went static, and then all of a sudden it went black, and then I saw the Apple logo, and I was like, "Ah, crap! The app crashed and rebooted."
But what I was going to say was that it's a rumor, and I don't think it's going to happen, but that Game of Thrones is going to end with as a movie. That will have the series will lead up to a conclusion in a movie.
And it will still be based off of the novels?
Yeah, it'll be the conclusion. It'll be basically the way that they can get the budget to do everything they'd want to do.
I could see the advantages to that.
I don't think it's going to happen. I
mean,
just don't think that that's within what HBO's goals,
Okay, I can't hear Tyson.
You can't hear me?
Oh, dear.
You can hear me, Kat?
Everybody hear me?
I can hear you, Tyson. Can you hear me, Will?
I can hear you.
You can't hear
I
me?
just can't hear Tyson.
That's
Okay,
weird.
well, Kat will interpret what I say.
Yeah. Weirdness now.
You're not going to like where this goes.
No.
Will, you don't want to know what Tyson just said about you.
Oh, man. I'm kicked off a TVEnthusiast, aren't I?
Well, I guess this is a good point to exit out on then.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do another one. Try to get together with Ed on that. So convey
Yes, sir.
that to Will.
So, Will, Tyson is saying
Hear
this
you
is a
now,
good place
excellent,
to
Tyson.
end.
I can hear you now, Tyson. Your audio.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I was going to say that now is kind of a good time to kind of call an end to the video, and we can resume this another time. It'd be kind of cool to do it as a irregular series or something about kind of the TV film crossover, and hopefully we can get Ed on another one.
And anytime we're just feeling like we need to come together and talk about the MCU in depth again, because it's an endless topic. We're never going to run out of.
That's not run out of material to talk, especially because there's new material coming out constantly.
Yeah.
There's TV shows happening alongside the movie, so there's constant new material to talk about with the MCU, and I think that's the big contributor why we can go on so much about it, is because there's always something to talk about concerning it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder when Marvel is just going to put out a line of comics that are also directly tied to the MCU. Instead of just being the basis and the source material, where they're going to start putting out...
I don't want MCU comics.
I don't either, but what if they did?
To follow this universe. That would just ruin it.
And then a Telltale game.
Yeah,
every property has to have a Telltale game.
Apparently, only the really popular ones.
And then they already have a Lego game, but they have to make it tie into the MCU.
Yeah.
I think the next phase is when there's going to be something where the Disney and the Star Wars and the Marvel characters all start interacting.
Oh yeah,
we already talked about that. That's going to happen on Once Upon a Time.
That's going to be like Thanos, the Infinity War. Like Thanos is going to rip a hole in the fabric of reality, and then all the fairy tale characters and Star Wars characters will get sucked into the MCU.
Okay, please tell me that there was like 6 months ago, there was this fantastic Marvel versus DC trailer that someone put up on YouTube where they just pulled footage from like every possible source you can imagine and made it look like a hole had been ripped in the time-space continuum, and suddenly Iron Man was facing off against Batman and Thor against Superman and Wonder Woman against Hulk, and it was just the greatest thing ever. So, surely one day, right?
Surely, one day, when companies learn how to work together.
Well, even beyond that, I mean, you always think that kind of thing's impossible, but I remember when I was a wrestling fan, and I followed the WWE, which was WWF at the time, they eventually bought their rival. And then they started doing their events. They had like a WWF show and a WCW show, and then they started crossing over until it was just all one big mess, and it wasn't separate anymore.
I'm sure Marvel versus DC will be a film someday in the future, and it will be a film exactly 1 week after I die. And so...
because fate is cruel.
Girl, just let go, Willie. You're in so much pain. You're all 1 more week.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna put a cap on it for now. So we're gonna cap off our MCU excitement that is gushing out. So we'll continue to do this I'll just say irregularly, because I don't want to commit to doing this every week or every other week.
I don't really want to do this every week. Yeah. I love you guys, but...
We'll find when there's good opportunities, when big events happen, when maybe after the next, maybe after Jessica Jones, or maybe after, whatever the next MCU Ant-Man comes out or something. We'll do something like this again and kind of catch up on whatever's connecting. So that's all. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, I am Tyson, the editor-in-chief of TV-Enthusiast. Will here is our news director, and Kat is a writer for our site. We're from TV-Enthusiast. Eventually, this should be kind of a crossover with Film-Enthusiast as well. Ed wasn't here this time. We're hoping to have him next time, or sometime later in the future. And some other staff from Film-Enthusiast as well would be nice. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye.
Bye.